Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this episode 3815 AM. Today's date is January 11th, 2026, and the title of the episode is The Foundation of the Economic System is Almost Complete. Economy About to Take Off. Hey, listen, if you're over 40 and planning to retire someday, the window to protect what you've built may be smaller than you realize. Here's a question most people never ask. Is your portfolio built for what's coming next? Many investors in their 40s and 50s discover they have little to no exposure to precious metals. That means their savings are largely tied to markets, policies, and paper assets, with very little protection if conditions change. As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon, protecting what you have already built becomes just as important as growing it. That's where Noble Gold Investments come in, helping investors reduce risk by adding physical gold to their portfolios. Right now may be a smart time to talk with Noble Gold Investments. No pressure, no sales gimmick, just clear answers and strategy built around our goals. Visit X22Gold.com and build your portfolio for the long term. That's X22Gold.com, or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, you can see that they cannot stop what Trump is building at this point. Everything that they tried to do has failed. And Trump's foundation of the new economic system, it is almost complete. And it's getting stronger and stronger every single day. It doesn't mean the deep state, the central bankers won't fight back. Of course they will. They'll fight back with everything they have because they know if they lose complete and utter control, it is game over for them. So I do believe that as things start to appear that there's no way of them gaining control of the economy and actually crashing it, because really that's what they want, they're going to have to do it themselves. Now, I do believe Trump and the Patriots, they understand that playbook. They understand that they will probably try maybe some type of cyber attack against the financial institutions, but you can see what Trump is doing right now. All those places where the cyber attack might have come from, he is trying to basically get rid of that type of narrative. So he's trying to have peace around the world. If we have peace around the world, who's attacking us? Nobody's attacking us. So this is why Trump is trying to shut down the war with Russia and Ukraine. This is why Trump is trying to make an economic deal with Russia, which I believe this is already done. We're just waiting for the peace negotiations. This is why he shut down everything that's going on in the Middle East and everything that's been happening with Venezuela, because they've been funding a lot of what's been happening around the world. So it's going to be very, very difficult for the deep state central bankers to try to kick off some type of financial Armageddon with a cyber attack if you don't have an enemy. And this is how Trump is actually trapping the deep state, the central bankers, and at the same time building that foundation of the parallel economic system and removing everything that they have been doing. And when he goes to the World Economic Forum, you're going to see that most likely during his speech, he's going to give it to them. And we've seen this in the past, but this time it's much, much different because Trump now has the leverage. And as soon as everything is complete, the one big beautiful bill is completely and utterly activated, and people start to get their tax refunds, fuel prices start to go much, much lower, and people are able to afford homes because Trump now is buying mortgage bonds, lowering the rates, pushing out the mortgages to 50 years. And eventually he will be going after the central bank, and actually gold will be revalued. So this is going to be very, very difficult for the deep state, the central bankers, to try to stop all of this. And if you notice, Trump has done this very slowly, methodically, and actually is putting a lot of pressure on the Federal Reserve, the central bank system, and the deep state players. And every day that passes, his economy gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And you have to remember, he's still playing within a central bank illusionary economic system. So what he's building right now is still within their system. Soon, that system that the central bank has, that will start to disappear. And Trump's new system will start to get stronger, bigger, and it will overshadow the central bank. And soon we will be in the new system. And as he weans us off the central bank system and actually allows the new system to pay for the taxes, pay for the debt and everything else, that's how you know that we're moving into the new system. That is the signal. That is the message letting you know that everything is being transitioned right now. Just like if you go back to 1971, When did you see the transition? A lot of people didn't see it. As soon as we came off the gold standard and we went out to the petrodollar system, we transitioned into full fiat. That was the transition. Of course, the deep state, the central bankers, they didn't care if there was a recession at that point in time. But again, Trump doesn't want a recession. He doesn't want people to go through pain. He doesn't want people to lose their wealth. He wants a smooth transition as best as possible to make sure that we retain everything. And I do believe at this point in time, he's doing a very good job in doing all of this. And when you look at what Trump did his first term compared to Biden, and then actually look at what he's doing now in the third term, and I do believe these numbers are going to go way, way higher, because as we remove ourselves from the central bank, we're going to see the buying power come back to the people. But E.J. Antoni, PhD, put this out and said, during Trump's first term, household net wealth jumped 39.3% or 28.9% in real inflation-adjusted terms, but just 23.5% under Biden, or an anemic 2% real increase. Trump's second term has already outdone Biden's entire 4 years with a real increase of 7.1% from the first quarter 25 to the third quarter of 2025. And think about it. This is with the central bank, the Federal Reserve, pushing against Trump. This is the judges stopping him at every turn. And you could see that through all of this, Trump was still able to do this while he was going through all that and fighting against the central bank illusionary economy. Because you have to remember, the central bank, what did they want from the very, very beginning? They wanted the economic system to crash. They never expected Trump to build the parallel system the way he did. And this was their main problem. And when you look at mortgage rates, they dropped below 6% for the first time in 4 years. So this should tell you everything you need to know. Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said, mortgage rates are now 5.7%. Mortgage costs were huge under Biden, around 8%. That's why almost no young families could afford homes. With my focus on housing affordability, and after I authorized Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to invest their cash and buy $200 billion in mortgage bonds, mortgage rates moved down to 5.7%. This is great news for American families and real cost relief. We are bringing housing costs down and putting America first. Absolutely. And what we're going to see happen right now is that as we move forward, we're going to see rates for mortgages continually drop. And it's going to make it easier and easier for people to purchase the homes. And people are going to purchase existing homes. People are going to purchase new homes. And if they purchase new homes, you're going to see that construction, well, those jobs are going to increase. We're going to see lumber increase, copper, tar. Hey, listen, if you're over 40 and planning to retire someday, the window to protect what you've built may be smaller than you realize. Here's a question most people never ask. Is your portfolio built for what's coming next? Many investors in their 40s and 50s discover they have little to no exposure to precious metals. That means their savings are largely tied to markets, policies, and paper assets, with very little protection if conditions change. As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon, protecting what you have already built becomes just as important as growing it. That's where Noble Gold Investments come in, helping investors reduce risk by adding physical gold to their portfolios. Right now may be a smart time to talk with Noble Gold Investments. No pressure, no sales gimmick, just clear answers and strategy built around our goals. Visit X22Gold.com and build your portfolio for the long term. That's X22Gold.com, or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. You name it, everything is going to increase because Trump is basically turning everything around and actually building the economy very, very quickly. And I do believe in the end, as he does this and continually makes the economy stronger and stronger and stronger, the central bankers, they will lose their leverage, they'll lose their power, especially with him basically shutting down the wars that they're trying to push. But Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said Biden ignored the housing market and instead was immersed with high crime, open borders, runaway inflation, the Afghanistan disaster, and a military that he left in chaos and confusion. Everything was broken, but I, as president of the United States, have already fixed it. Now I'm giving special attention to the housing market because I chose not to sell Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac in my first term. A truly great decision, and against the advice of experts, it is now worth many times that amount, an absolute fortune, and has $200 billion in cash. Because of this, I'm instructed my representatives to buy $200 billion in mortgage bonds. This will drive mortgage rates down, monthly payments down, and make the cost of owning a home more affordable. It is one of my many steps in restoring affordability, something that the Biden administration absolutely destroyed. We're bringing back the American dream, and that was destroyed by the last administration. Make America great again. And as more and more young families are able to purchase homes, what does that mean? It means they're going to feel good. They're going to feel happy. And with a very, very low interest rate, especially if it's fixed, and if they do it over 50 years, some people might, some people, might not. But again, as the buying power comes back to the people of this country, that fixed mortgage is going to feel like absolutely nothing. Think about it back in 1971, when we came off the gold standard and the currency was inflated because it lost value. So when it lost value, they had to raise everyone's wages at that time to keep up. You see, it was very different. We were coming off the gold standard and we went full fiat. So things were much easier to where you could raise the wages. We're on the back end right now where it's not the same. We've been off the gold standard for a very long time. The currency's devalued by quite a bit, like something like 98%. But as Trump pays off the debt, lowers fuel prices, he gives the buying power back to the people, especially if he pays off the debt. That means the inflation starts to go away, which means if you're making $100,000, it's going to feel like $200,000. It's going to feel like $300,000. So that fixed mortgage rate is going to feel like absolutely nothing. And if you go back to 1971, that's what the people felt back then when we initially went on the central bank system, full fiat. Those people that had a $300 mortgage that was making $5,000 a year, yes, that might have been tough. But when they readjusted everything, the mortgage amount stayed the same, and they increased the amount of wages that you were receiving. So they had to increase your buying power by giving you more of those pieces of paper because the pieces of paper have been devalued. So the opposite thing is going to happen now. If you have, let's say, a $1,500 mortgage and you're making, let's say, $100,000 a year, and we start to pay back the debt, the value of the currency all of a sudden comes back, which means your currency is worth more, which means you don't need the same amount of pieces of paper to pay for that mortgage, which means you have additional buying power. So basically, we're just doing everything in reverse right now. And this is what Trump has been building towards. He put this out on Truth. He said, key economic takeaways. States won by Trump have added 11 times more jobs than left-wing, red tape-ridden states. The golden age is in motion. Focus on housing is coming at a good time, as jobs in residential construction are down slightly over the year. All construction jobs gains are in the red states, and all manufacturing job losses are in the blue states. Private sector annual wages are on track to rise $2,700 for a full-time worker since January. Manufacturing is even higher at $3,000. The Atlanta Fed forecasts that the U.S. will grow even faster in the fourth quarter than the second quarter and the third, despite the shutdown. Now, once again, we know the deep state players, the Ds, they're going to probably try to shut down the economy once again because, again, we have the same problem that we had back in 2025, where all of a sudden here we are at the debt ceiling, and what do? So once again, they're going to try to make a move any way they possibly can, but I do believe in the end it's not going to work whatsoever. And you can see that Trump now, he has lowered the trade deficit. It's the lowest since 2009, and it's getting lower and lower and lower. And this is what Trump put out. Numbers released today show that the United States of America has the lowest trade deficit since 2009, and it's going even lower. In addition, our nation's gross domestic product GDP is predicted to come in at over 5%, and that is after losing at least 1.5% to the Democrat shutdown. These incredible numbers and the unprecedented success of our country are a direct result of tariffs, which have rescued our economy and national security. I hope the Supreme Court is aware of these historic country-saving achievements prior to the issuance of their important ever decision. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And what we've seen so far is that the Supreme Court, they were supposed to make a ruling on January 9th, but they have not as of yet. So this is going to be very, very interesting. And think about all the gains that Trump has made. And think about all the jobs that he's creating. Think about all the money that's coming to this country. And remember, there is precedent from other presidents that used tariffs when we didn't have a central bank and when we were transitioning away from a central bank. So I do believe there is precedent in all of this. And the Supreme Court has to look at the history, and they have to look at what has been done in history, and I do believe that's what they're going to base their ruling on. But let's see how this all plays out. But Trump, or the White House, put this out and says the U.S. economy has added 37,000 private sector jobs. The Atlanta Fed doubled in the fourth quarter of 2025. President Trump reached a deal with the drug maker Johnson & Johnson to lower drug prices. Trump directed Congress to purchase $200 billion in mortgage bonds in order to reduce the mortgage rates. President Trump announced he is taking steps to ban large institutional investors in purchasing single-family homes. The U.S. trade deficit fell 39% to $29.4 billion, its lowest since 2009. The S&P 500 and Dow Jones Industrial Average hit record high closes. So basically, you could see that everything that he's doing, he's giving it back to the people. He's giving the power back to the people and allowing the people to get a job, to buy a home, to fill up their car cheaply. And you could see that with all of this being done right now, and as we approach the midterms, the people of this country, they're going to be all for Trump. They're going to look at the economic situation, their own family situation, and they're going to realize that things are pretty darn good compared to Biden. And this is how Trump is going to win over the people, because I do believe the next phase is coming up. And what is the next phase? The next phase is to get control of the House and the Senate. And once we have that control of the House and the Senate, Trump then can go after the Federal Reserve, can go after the central bank system. And the only way to do that is to remove the laws or place new laws into effect and actually maybe place new amendments or remove other amendments. So this way we can establish the new system. See, without doing that, without going after the central bank, without restructuring the central bank, nothing's going to change, because when Trump eventually leaves office, they're going to just try to reverse everything. But you can see Congress right now, they're trying to codify everything that Trump is doing right now, even the housing and everything like that. So this way, down the line, whoever gains power, they will not be able to reverse this that easily. And once we get rid of the Federal Reserve and we remove the Federal Reserve Act and we remove the amendment or add another amendment and actually maybe an additional amendment saying there'll never, ever be a central bank system, this is going to make it very, very difficult for another central bank to come into existence. And I do believe this is the second phase of the plan, because without that, and if you still have an open-ended credit card where you can just borrow and borrow and borrow, the same corruption, the same economic system, the same everything that we see today will come back into existence. And you could see it going back to 1913. We were on a tariff system until the central bank system came back into existence, because remember, it's the third one. And what did they do? Well, we had a tariff system. They removed the tariffs and they built their central bank system. So what do you think would happen if we don't change all the laws? You have to make it as difficult as possible for them to come back into existence. And the only way to do that is to get control of the House and Senate, because right now we don't have control enough of the House and Senate to create these laws. So I do believe that is the second phase, and that's why Trump has been building this up. This is why he timed it perfectly for the midterms, to show people, look what we're doing right now. It's going to get better throughout this year. And if you want more of this, then vote Republican. Vote for the people that I'm endorsing right now. So this way we can move to the next phase to get rid of the Federal Reserve. And once we get rid of the Federal Reserve, you're going to see the economic system take off like a rocket ship, like we've never seen before. And when you look at gold, and when you look at silver, when you look at Bitcoin, all of these currencies, they're now going to take over for the fiat currency, or they'll be linked to the U.S. dollar. Remember, right now, this is really not the U.S. dollar. It's the Federal Reserve note. It's an instrument of debt. Soon, we will be going back to the U.S. dollar. Actually, you'll probably see the bills change from the Federal Reserve note, which you see on top, to the U.S. dollar, or the certificate for silver or gold, or whatever they're going to put on it. It will be done by we the people and no longer by a private corporation. So I do believe everything is about to change, and step by step, Trump is bringing us to this golden age, this new system, and it's going to be absolutely incredible. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.